Reality check. This is happiness part 4. More reality checks. I mentioned my father. My father, until he was a very old man, had no close friends. He had people that he hung out with, and he had people, that he invited to parties or went to their parties. He and my mother were dancers, and so they went to dancing conventions, and they were around other people who danced. But he was never really close with them. He was not a person who liked to disclose his weaknesses. He was much more comfortable disclosing his strengths. With his patients, he didn't have to disclose it. They knew how good he was. They knew, that he had done, what he had done for them, and he didn't. He just liked the interaction with them, like being a doctor, taking care of people, taking responsibility for people, and being very good at it. If you can actually, have 5 friends that you can confide in, they confide in you. Not that that's all they're for, but if you feel like it, you can do it. And you don't have to keep secrets from each other, and you like being with each other. This is a source of support, and these people are with you and provide you with something psychologically beneficial even when they're not physically present. Because that's the way human beings are made. Having a relationship with somebody where you take care of them some and they take care of you some. This can be a source of satisfaction. With friends, you don't really take care of each other. You might occasionally, but my wife died 2.5 years ago. I'm 71, so I was 68 at the time. The last 6 months of her life, she was having problems finding a job to keep for a good while. She was a teacher and she had seniority, but she could not find a niche. And I felt sorry for her because she wanted to do a good job. She wanted to be accepted. She wanted to help students and be helpful to students and have them like her. And she liked them. She was a loving person, and she couldn't find this. And I wasn't working, and I had blown my inheritance in part helping her to take care of her children before we were married. She had children by a previous marriage. And so she was supporting me. She was the only one of us working. And she thought about going into a business, and I went around with her and supported her in this, even though it was clear that wasn't going to work out. She got a temporary assignment at a school about 5 miles from where we lived, and I would take her to work. She'd like me to take her to work. That was something I could do for her. She enjoyed our ride there. And then I would pick her up, and if it was a cool day, I would bring the dogs. They were her dogs, and they were kind of like our family. And so she would come out of school, and the dogs would be waiting in the car, and I would be there. Or I'd go to her class and pick her up. So this is kind of like taking care of each other. It's very uncharacteristic of me. I'm by nature a loner, and I only met her when I was in my late 50s, and had never been married, never wanted to be married. until we actually married. I wasn't that interested in being married even to her. And so, you know, being loved and loving, that's something that's with you even when the person isn't. If there's mutual caretaking, if it's one-sided caretaking, then that's a different ballgame. That's not something that's likely to be beneficial. In the United States, where people live in large houses with big lots and fences, where virtually every signal is that they don't want to be around other people, where privacy is prized for some reason. Privacy is an unnatural situation among humans. But you know, we're in a rich country where people move around all the time and have very few friends. You know, privacy keeps strangers and threats away from you, even when they're not actually threats. In the U.S., animals take the place of children. Children are expensive. They're a pain in the ass. Animals are too, but perhaps less than humans. So people have animals as pets. Other parts of the world, there are some pets, but animals tend to be workers, tend to do tasks for humans. In other parts of the world, maybe not in France and Britain, but in most of the world. So, when you see people with animals who love animals, that's good. That seems to be a help, especially for people who don't have friends. Another element of reality is that if you are self-accepting, then you're probably an exception. Now, there's different degrees of being self-accepting, but here's how you measure it. I mean, if you're not a person who puts up a lot of pretenses, if you're a person who's relatively honest about your strengths and about your weaknesses, I mean, where you really don't care whether people know what you're like. This is a lack of defensiveness. If you have to con people around you, it becomes very difficult to be close to them because you have to be better than they are. And when you try to con people, they're not going to believe it because we all know what people lie about. They lie about their incomes. They purchase things not for the utility, but for the appearance. These are all lies. If you basically have people, you know, who, when things go right, when things go wrong, they don't have a lot of excuses. That's an absence of defensiveness. What you get in America is a lot of psychotherapy, which ends up by having some idiot therapist encourage parent bashing. So if you're going around, you know, explaining what your ex-spouse or what your parents did to you, unless they beat you constantly, unless you were constantly raped by relatives or starved or forced into labor from age 5, you know, then there's a good chance that, you know, that you're making this up as an excuse, even though you may not know it. We'll have part 5, which will be the remainder of reality check.